Hello, fantasy baseball fanatics. How you doing? Welcome to the Fantasy MD's Baseball Podcast. Today is Tuesday, September 13th. We're coming at you a day late. Matt and I both been a little bit busy over the past few weeks. Sorry for the delay. This is our 51st episode. If you guys been here for the ride, or even if you're new, you enjoy the content that we've been putting out over the baseball season, we just ask that you give us a little, 5-star rating. And if you can write a little review, it goes a long way to, get the reach of the Fantasy MDs out there. We've got the video on Spotify now. We're also on YouTube, as always. If you haven't already, hit the little bell on YouTube right under the video screen, and it subscribes to us, and it will give you guys a little alert every time we drop a new video. Other than that, I'm your host, Dominic Martino, here with my co-host, as always, my brother, partner in crime, Matthew Adney. Matt, how we doing today, brother?
I'm doing good, man. Doing good. Sorry, excuse me. Just ate like a fat son of a gun. Family friendly. Daughter got a couple shots. It's been an eventful night.
There we go.
How you doing?
All right. I'm all right, man. I'm doing good. I'm fighting for my life in the fantasy playoffs, as I'm sure most of us are, over the past couple of weeks. So, that's why we're here, give everybody a little advice and maybe, help ourselves out a little bit too by getting things out in the open. First thing that we always, finger on the pulse. This one is not so much, fantasy relevant because, as we're coming down the stretch here, guys, if you need advice for the playoffs, strategies, league winning tips, check our last few episodes. We provided a lot of that over the past couple of weeks here. So we're going to go with more of a curtain call here, for one of the best players of all time, one of the best fantasy baseball players of all time, and that's Mr. Albert Pujols. He hit his 697th career home run the other day, which I believe puts him fourth all-time in solo possession. He's one home run ahead of Alex Rodriguez. He only is behind Barry Bonds, Hank Aaron, and Babe Ruth at this point. I know everybody is, if you're a baseball fan, you're pulling for this guy to get to 700. It's only 3 more home runs, and I truly believe he's got it in him. And he's actually been, somewhat useful this year for a 42-year-old guy in fantasy baseball. Albert Pujols has played in 90 games, 252 at-bats, 31 runs, 18 bombs, 48 RBIs. The old man chipped in a steal, and he's hitting 266 on the year. So you know what? I mean, if you rode him out all this year, he's Mr. Puos has been helpful. But here at the Fantasy MDs, we just wanted to give a little shout out to a guy in his last season that's been one of the best fantasy players over the past 10 years. Probably even 15 years if I'm going to go that far back. I just wanted to give the guy one last little shout out here before the end of the season and he retires. Mr. Albert Puos, thank you for all you've done. I know there's been years where I took you number 1 overall, and he's carried me to fantasy championships, as I'm sure he's done to everybody else here. So, just a little quiet hand for Mr. Pujols, and, thank you for everything that you've done over your whole career.
Yeah, man. I'm wondering if he doesn't get it this season, he comes back to hit 1 and pull a Mr. 3,000. Like the movie.
You know what, Matt? Yeah, a little Bernie Mac. But you know what, Matt? I'll say this, right? He's 3 away from 700, but then he's, 17 away from Babe Ruth. So, if he wants to go out there and, maybe come back next year, he hits the same amount of home runs he hits this year, which is, 18, as I just mentioned, he'll be in 3rd all time. So, I mean, it might be tempting. He might pull a little Tom Brady and be like, guys, I'm back, next year when things come around. But we just wanted to be sure to give the guy a little shout out, all he's done, helping everybody win fantasy championships over the year, and even contributing this year at 42 years old, Mr. Albert Pujols,
Oh, yeah. I think we covered all we have. Let's hit those notes.
Yeah. So, yeah, guys. So you know what? We're going to move right on to the news and notes, as my brother Matt said. If you guys been around, you know the routine. I know my brother Matt knows the routine. Just cut me off at any time if there's anything that you want to, dig into here, if you got any thoughts on anything. So we got some good news here. Shane Mcclanahan with that, shoulder, I believe it was a shoulder impingement. He is in line to return to the Rays rotation Thursday. That's going to be tomorrow when you guys are listening to it. So, going to have Shane Mcclanahan back for the little final stretch here. It was a very very, very good thing if you own him. Then we got Max Scherzer with that oblique. He threw a successful bullpen session on Sunday. He's expected to return when first eligible to the Mets next week. Then we got Luis Severino with that lat issue. He will make his final rehab start on Thursday. If all goes well, he'll be activated September 14th for the Yankees. I believe they go up against the Pirates that day. So that's a good matchup for Savvy on his day back. Starling Marte, unfortunately, was placed on the 10-day IL with a non-displaced fracture in his middle finger. Sorry for all the Starling Marte owners out there, but we do got some good replacements coming up on the waiver wire segment, so, stay tuned with that one. Then we got Ozzie Albies for the Atlanta Braves. He's been struggling down there in the minors, on his rehab assignment. They're saying he could be back within the next week or so, but I truly don't think they're going to push him with Vaughn Grissom out there hitting the way that he's been hitting. Guy's been absolutely dominant. So once again, no rush for Ozzie Albies to come back. So I wouldn't be banking on him to contribute down the stretch here in the playoffs, especially with him not hitting so well, while he's down there in the minors. Then we got Trevor Story, Boston Red Sox. He was removed from Sunday's game with pain in his left heel. He'll head for more testing. I haven't really seen too many updates. I'll do a little quick check for you guys here because I did do these notes a little bit earlier today. Let's see. Is there any news on Mr. Trevor Story? He's out of the lineup again today. Doesn't really look like there's too much news on the testing, but this guy's been banged up all year. Those phalanges are looking a little bit weak for Trevor Story, so really wouldn't be banking on him to, produce too much over the next couple of weeks in the playoffs here. I would make other arrangements, going forward at second base. I know I have him in one of my big money leagues. Fortunately, I'm on bye this week in that league, so I'm keeping track here of, who I might pick up once again, as you guys should as well if you have Trevor Story or, even again, if you're banking on Ozzie Albies coming back, going to have to look elsewhere at second base. This one's another, devastating injury. Somebody that I know Matt and I were both very high on this year. That's Freddy Peralta. He's back to the IL with shoulder fatigue again. So once again, don't bank on him coming back at all for the rest of the year because, the Brewers probably going to play it very, very safe with him. Once again, he's probably out the rest of the season. That's Freddy Peralta. Mitch Haniger, day-to-day with back soreness. They're saying he might not need an IL stint, but Matt and I have been tracking this all year. The back injuries are such a tricky thing, and it's tough. It's tough to, come back from back soreness, back injury, back tightness, any of that stuff. It could keep you out for a very long time, a la Chris Bryant, Brandon Lowe, and just guys like that. It has been a bad year for back injury, so I wouldn't really expect to have Mitch Haniger back either. We actually have a very, very good, outfielder today in the waiver wire segment, so, pay attention to that. Stay tuned. DJ Lemay Hugh with that toe issue. He's in line to be activated on September 20th for the Yankees. If he's been dropped in one of your leagues, take a little look-see. Once again, if you need that help at second base, DJ, going to hit at the top of that Yankees lineup. Might not give you too much pop or speed, but, he's a pretty solid average hitter, and he'll be driven in a lot as long as he's getting on base. Then we got Brandon Drury. He had a concussion. He was in the concussion protocol. They're saying he could return on Thursday, so, just keep post, in your daily leagues, try and stay posted on the news and notes there with him. Get him activated because he's been actually very, very dominant this year. Brandon Drury's been a surprise to us all, one of the fantasy darling pickups of the year. As I just mentioned, Brandon Lowe, actually, headed back to the IL with back soreness. I would not be counting on him to be back at all this year because, once again, that back has been the thing that's been holding him up almost all year. So I would not expect him to be back, make other arrangements. Again, looks like second base has just been brutalized here, down the stretch. Then we got Chris Bryant with the plantar fascia. He's not coming back this year. So, that stinks. The Rockies spent a lot of money on him, and it's just been a lost season for Chris Bryant. I think as long as he's healthy, he bounces back next year, though. And, of course, he has great numbers when he plays. So it's really just the injuries holding him back. Matt, did you want to chime in with KB?
Yeah, I feel like him and Brandon Lowe have been hanging out in the Montesee Lounge. Working on how to get them phalanges real bad.
Oh, yeah, I fully agree with you there, man. Just a lost season for a couple of guys this year, and hopefully they could bounce back next year because, Lau and KB are both very talented hitters when they are healthy. And then last up before the waiver wire segment, we got Gavin Lux. He is still day-to-day with back issues. We literally been just talking about it the whole time, so I'm not going to beat a dead horse. But he's missed the last 9 games for the Dodgers. I'm shocked he hasn't hit the IL yet. So once again, make other arrangements if you were banking on Gavin Lux to help you here in the playoffs. So with all that being said, let's head into the waiver wire segment. And as always, Matt, I'm sure the people are tired of hearing me rant at this point. So who's up first, Matt?
Okay. I love talking about taking the first guy. It's always nice. So who should I pick?
Yeah, a lot of options. A lot of good options, as I may add, too.
All right. I'm going to go with my boy. I just scooped him up. Well, he's a little higher as of today, funny enough. But that's Jake McCarthy. Yeah, I'm
sure.
He's
still available. Climbing.
He's still available, but
yeah, that number climbed a lot.
He was under 50. He was under 60%. He's shot up quite a bit. He's at 71% on Yahoo. Check your leagues if you're in other formats. Other platforms, things like that. But the kid has just been outrageous. He has been over the last month the number 1 player in fantasy baseball. So this is his last month. It's 18 runs, 5 bombs, 25 ribbies, 10 stolen bases, batting .380. This last week has just been monstrous. I mean, shoot, I don't know what's going on with him, but let's go. He's got 5 runs, 1 bomb, 6 ribs, 3 stolen bases, and batting .440. Jesus. I mean, Arizona Diamondbacks have hit gold with this kid. Hopefully they can put a team around him so those numbers next year for the full season can look outrageous. It's funny enough, though. I mean, dude, he's only had 250 at-bats this year, and his stats are way better than I thought it would be. It would be like as if this was like almost a little bit before the All-Star break, like if we were the first 2 months of baseball, right? He has 46 runs, 8 bombs, 41 ribbies, 17 stolen bases, batting .304. Now, if I was going into the end of end of June, I'd be really happy with this dude. I'm just saying. So, hopefully with a full season under his belt next year, he could be somebody pretty valuable. He's going to be one of those people on my breakout list next year. Keeper leagues, you should really scoop him up and probably save him for next year.
Yeah, Matt, I think that's great analysis here on Jake McCarthy of the Arizona Diamondbacks. I'll be honest, the future outfield for Arizona looks absolutely dominant with Mr. McCarthy, Mr. Corbin Carroll, and Mr. Alec Thomas. All have shown to be, pretty good hitters here, and first little showing, great as you stated. Jake McCarthy with those 17 steals look great. 304 batting average is absolutely awesome. He's been hitting like I believe third almost every day recently for the Arizona Diamondbacks. And I think Jake McCarthy at 24 years old, as you said, is going to be somebody you need to look at in Dynasty in those deeper keeper leagues if you're keeping most of your team. And as I said, in Dynasty leagues, if he's still available, you got to absolutely snag him because I think, as Matt said, I'm going to have him on one of my breakout outfielders next year. And he's contributing in almost every single category. Power is a little bit light, but you know what? If you're getting 4 out of 5 categories from a guy that you just picked up for the playoffs, it's absolutely great. And I think Jake McCarthy is reminiscent. I think I said this last week too, but I'll say it again, of a Tyler O'Neill from last year. Kind of just came out of nowhere in the last couple of months and it was just raking. So you want to juice the orange when it comes here to Mr. Jake McCarthy. And not really too much else I'm going to add here except future is pretty bright for the kid. Go ahead, Matt.
One thing is, I will say this. Power is there for the last month at least. He's hit 1.5 and 1.25 per week. So he has 5 home runs over the last month. So
they heating up.
He's going to be, at least for now, a five category contributor, which is solid as hell, especially with a waiver wire pickup like that. I mean, 71% own at this point. I mean, I think he should be at 100. That's just me.
Yeah,
totally agree. He's killing it, and he's going to be one of those people that can give you that fantasy championship push.
Yeah, Matt, I fully agree with you there on Jake McCarthy, is that he could be a league-winning asset. That number jumped up from literally even this morning. That number, I think, was closer to 60. So, for him to climb 11% in a day just shows that I think that I think anyone that is active right now or in the playoffs kind of knows what they're doing. That's what that tells me by him gaining so much ownership. Once again, Jake McCarthy, Arizona Diamondbacks outfielder. He is 71% owned on Yahoo, but as Matt mentioned, might be a little bit lower on some other platforms. So if he's out there, he is the number 1 waiver wire bat pickup for this week. Let's head into our next guy then, because that's enough for the stud Jake McCarthy. Let's go into somebody who is actually supposed to start the year but got hurt. Is back now and he's doing pretty good. That's Josh Young. It's actually spelled Jung though, but it is pronounced Young. Mr. Josh Young. He's been doing all right so far. Hit a home run on September 12th. He hit a home run and a steal in his first game on September 9th. Overall, he's hanging in there. He's solid. He's hitting 250, 5 for 20, 3 runs, 2 bombs, 3 steals. 3 RBIs and 1 steal. 23% owned for Mr. Josh Young on Yahoo. He's third base eligible. And as I said, he was a very, very highly touted prospect coming in, this year for Texas. But unfortunately, he got banged up, and it took him a while to get back up to speed. He was absolutely dominating down in the minors, though. I'm going to read you off those numbers here in a second. So this year, Josh Young played 31 games in the minors, 124 at-bats, 19 runs, 7 doubles, 9 home runs, 29 RBIs. He even chipped in a steal, and he hit 266 down there. So the thing with Mr. Young is he's a bit of a power guy. He's not really going to give you too much speed, but in that lineup, I believe he's hitting around 6th. So he got some guys to drive in front of him. He's got Adolis Garcia. He's got Corey Seager. He's got Marcus Semien. So the RBIs could be there. The power could be there for him. I'm not as high as him as Jake McCarthy, but I think Josh Young could definitely contribute here down the stretch. He's totally worth a shot to add him, and see where the thing goes. But you know what? Don't be afraid to drop a guy like this either. If you do see somebody, that you like that fills a position, a need on your team better than, Mr. Young. So that's about all I really got to add on Mr. Josh Young here. Matt, how do you feel about the kid?
Yeah, he's a fair ad. The way he's come out in 20 at-bats for the season is a statement. I think that he's definitely a speculative ad, especially a 12-man team. You're not going to find this kind of production off the bat with a 5-category contributor within 20 bats like this. The upside is there, but I'm not like running out to get him.
Yeah.
But if next week is a little rough, if you're in the championship, or even this week, but you foresee an off day coming up, I would kind of run out and kind of go scoop him real quick, see what's happening. So he could be a nice little fill-in, and then possibly if he takes this and runs, it could be a real nice boost as well. Let's move on here. Let's move on to Mr. Eric Haas, if I said that right.
Yeah, on the money.
No doubt. So this guy has catcher and outfield, so this is pretty valuable for me. Batting average is there over the last week. He batted .550, which is real nice, so you already know what my theory is. Batting average off the waiver wire, you're killing it, and boom, you got to pick it up. Even over the last 2 weeks, batting .389. Over the last 2 weeks, the stats, this is especially from a catcher, right? 5 runs, 3 bombs, 4 ribbies. Okay? You don't get that.
You'll take it.
You take that all day. You're lucky if you get like 1 run, 1 home run, and 2 ribbies. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's rough out there in that catcher life. So, it's one of those things where I'm okay with it. And his stats on the year ain't bad either. He's batting .256. So, he ain't outright killing you. Detroit's a little rough. The park is pretty big. Don't get me wrong. But at the same time, he's getting everyday play because he has that outfielder eligibility as well. So, catcher ain't great right now either. So I would probably scoop him up if I were you. That's Eric Haas of the Detroit Tigers. He's 20% owned. So, he's probably one of the higher end pickups this week for me.
Yeah, Matt, I fully agree. I don't have too much to add here, except, he's been playing almost every day. On September 7th, Eric Haas actually went 5 for 5 with a home run, so that's great from your catcher. And then the next day on September 9th, he double donged, went 3 for 5. And he's even hot today. He's off to a hot start today. He's 1 for 1 with the ribby. So you give Eric Haas the chance. I'll tell you this. If you got a guy like William Contreras who isn't really playing every day anymore because Travis d'Arnaud has come back, I would drop him in a heartbeat for a guy like Eric Haas and just ride the wave, because this is the point where you really don't want to sit back and with any player and be like, okay, well he's good, so he might get it going with the next couple of days. This isn't the time to play that that game in the playoffs. You want to make the moves and, juice the oranges and ride the hot hands, however you want to say it. And a guy like Eric Haas, as Matt, just covered greatly, is doing it, getting it done right now, contributing in almost in about 4 categories. And the batting average has been great over the past, 2 weeks, month. So a guy like Eric Haas, you got to go at him. Once again, 20% owned on Yahoo. If you need help at the catcher position, go and pick him up. So let's head into our last bat here, and that's somebody that I'm actually he's a little bit older, but he's been dominant of late, and that's Joey Meneses. Ever since he got traded over to Washington in the Juan Soto trade, the guy has literally not stopped hitting at all. The numbers on the year are absolutely beautiful for Mr. Meneses. 22 runs, 8 bombs, 22 ribbies, and he's hitting .326 in the batting average department. He's 51% owned on Yahoo. He's first base and outfield eligible once again, Joey Meneses. And the guy's actually had a sneaky great career in the minors. He's put up a lot of batting average. He's put up a little bit of power. Not so much of a steals guy, but you know what? At 30 years old, he kind of knows what he's doing. He's not trying too hard. All he's doing is being himself and getting on base and driving in runs, getting driven in. So I really like what Joey Meneses is doing here, and I feel like once again Matt was talking about how Jake McCarthy needs to be closer to 100% owned. A guy like Joey Meneses, man, I don't know how he's only 51% owned. I think he needs to be up way closer to 85-90%, especially going into the stretch here. And he's been hitting like second or third every single day for the Nationals. I know they're not a great team, but when you're hitting at the top of that lineup, that means more at bats. And as Matt likes to say, batting average off the waiver wire, for a guy that's getting extra at bats, hitting second and third, it's money. A guy's got a bunch of 2-hit games over the past couple of weeks, threw in a 3-hit game, got a bomb, a bunch of RBIs. You got to go add Joey Meneses right now, be honest. I think he's right behind Jake McCarthy for me as far as the ads in the batting department go this week.
You're not too far off. I mean, Meneses just isn't hitting all 5 categories, let alone 4. He's doing his thing, though. I'm pretty the batting average is what's key. So, I mean, he's definitely somebody you scoop up if your bench isn't deep, that with average and you have some off days, at least you have somebody and then get some stats or possibly some more categories than just batting average, but not destroy your batting average. So he's one of those off day bumps, because that happens and always happens to me too. When I need a W, like my whole team is just off. So,
happens.
And then usually just wrapped up with like 2 guys. So hopefully he's that guy, and then he can just cover up and, mend it and kind of keep that batting average strong. But let's move on to the arms and talk to my favorite. I believe we talked about him last week. I'm going to talk about him again.
We did talk about him last week, but this guy is just so good, Matt. I had to throw him on here again just to make sure everyone gets him.
Bro, he's been monstrous, right?
Yes, sir.
And everybody, let me just, instead of just teasing everybody, it's Nick Lodolo for the umpteenth time this year. I've been telling you all year, you need to scoop him up. I have been riding with Lodolo all year. He's 46% owned, which is just mind-blowing. This kid is a strikeout machine. The upside for next year is going to be wonderful. And going into the playoffs, it's going to be wonderful. Tomorrow, unfortunately, you didn't get this yesterday, playing Pitt. It's a great matchup. So, he's going to do it again because, against Milwaukee, 11 Ks, got the W225 ERA. Against Colorado, 9 Ks, a 0 ERA with a .5 whip. Washington, 3.86 ERA with a .86 whip. 5 Ks. The kid is just doing his thing, and I think he's finally figuring it out. I think Lodolo needs to be up at like 60, 70, 80% owned. I think going into that last week of the playoffs, he's somebody that you can rely on, pick him up and stream, pitch and ditching is going to be a real factor going into these last 2 weeks. I think we hit it. We use him, and he's one of those guys you're going to end up keeping on your team because next week he's going to be very valuable.
Yeah, Matt, fully agree with you that I know if you don't get your daily transactions where if you pick somebody up, they come to your roster that day, which isn't too many leagues. We're sorry about this, but we told you about Lodolo last week, Once again, the thing is he has a lot of good matchups here in the last couple of weeks. Next week he pitches on, I believe it's Monday, so he gets 2 starts. The first one's going to be against Boston. The second one, he's back at Pittsburgh again for the third time. So, yeah, so the thing is he's going to be out there, feeling comfortable against a team he could easily dominate. As Matt said, Nick Lodolo is a strikeout machine. He's gone through the growing pains, the ups and downs this year, but it looks like he's finally settling into the type of pitcher that we all knew Lodolo could be. He hasn't thrown too many innings in his minor league career, but the innings he has thrown have been absolutely dominant in the minors. In 2021, he threw 50 innings, struck out 78 guys in those 50 innings with a 0.96 whip and a 2.31 ERA. So, he has shown in the past that he's capable of doing it. Lodolo being only 24 years old, you love to see him finally coming into his own and showing the upside that we know he had. Big strikeout games in his last two, as Matt mentioned, 11 on the 9th against Milwaukee and 9 on September 4th against Colorado for Lodolo. So, as we mentioned, he's got great matchups here down the stretch. He's somebody you're going to want to hold on to going into the championship round of your playoffs, or if you're just getting started, if you're in the middle of your playoffs. He has great matchups for the rest of the season, so you hold Lodolo and you ride the wave with him. And I got to admit, Matt was saying last week, I think would you say around number 50 going into next year? I think I'm right there with you now. I'm right on board with you. The only thing holding Lodolo back is the home park, being Cincinnati, and he might not win too many games because the team isn't great itself. But as for ERA, whips and whip and strikeouts, I think Lodolo will contribute in all of those three categories next year. So enough with our boy here, the darling of pitching going into the playoffs. Let's talk about somebody who just came back and looked continued the pace that he was on. That's Jon Gray of the Texas Rangers. Man, he came back yesterday, and he's just working his way back. So he only threw 3.2 innings. He did strike out 5, though, and didn't give up a run with a 0.55 whip for Mr. Jon Gray. And he's just getting right back on track to where he was before he got hurt, man. I know Matt and I talked about Jon Gray a few times on this podcast, even before the season started. We said he was going to, be great on that new team getting out of Coors finally. On the year, Jon Gray's numbers are fantastic. To be honest with you, Jon Gray's pitched 107 innings, 7 wins, 121 strikeouts, a 3.70 ERA, and a 1.15 WHIP. So, you got to ride the wave here with Jon Gray. He gets Tampa Bay on the 18th. Tampa Bay isn't a great team. I know they got Wander Franco back, but they lost Brandon Lowe, and I think Jon Gray will go out there against Tampa and have a very, very good outing. So he's definitely somebody I feel comfortable streaming. He's only 47% owned. Once again, Jon Gray of the Texas Rangers. He's back in action. Go check if in your league if he was dropped, and I would snag him up because I think he's going to finish out the rest of the year very strong.
Yeah, Jon Gray is, we've been calling for him to get set free for a while because, Colorado was just a death pit for pitchers. So one of those things where finally, and I think next year in year 2, he's probably going to have a better year, in my opinion. My other saying that I've been saying all year is players on a new team never really live up to that expectation that first year. It's always that second year after they find all their favorite Chinese food restaurants and whatnot. So, you need those Sunday night munchies. But, he's definitely going to be good for you coming up the stretch. He's been low-key good all year, like Dom said, so definitely worth the ad. But let's move on to this next guy, and that's Jose Suarez of the Los Angeles Angels. He's about 30% owned. Mr. Suarez has been good so far. In last month, he has some good stats, right? 23 innings, 23 Ks, 3.04 whip, ERA, 0.93 whip. And 2 Ws, right? That's really good. Okay. His next, I don't see his next matchups. Yahoo don't let me see that far. Dom
I think he gets Texas on Monday. Should be a two-start week for Mr. Suarez. Maybe not though, because they got the 6-man rotation going there in Los Angeles. As far as the Angels go, but he could, since it's Monday, he might line up again on Sunday. So we'll see.
Which will be nice. So if he's a 2-starter next week, and you get him Monday, and I think he's just going to be great. I think he's a great pickup. The stats are there. He's been pitching great for what he's been doing so far. I think he's definitely a quality ad this week.
Yeah, fully agree, Matt. I'm gonna do a quick honorable mention here. I didn't throw him on the the list here, but I probably should have. And that's a quick note on Trevor Rogers, starting pitcher for the Miami Marlins. Man, has the guy absolutely turned things around since he came back off the IL on August 31st. He's been absolutely dominant. He's a little bit more highly owned. That's why I didn't really want to do it. He's 64% owned on Yahoo. He goes up against Washington on September 17th, so he's probably one of the top starting pitchers at him and Lodolo, I would say, if you can go out there and get him. He went out against Texas in his last outing, struck out 9, gave up 2 runs, but I did watch the game, and he was absolutely dominant. The bullpen actually came in and gave up the runs. He left 1 out in the 7th, and as unfortunately had a guy in first and second. Bullpen came in, gave up those 2 runs for him, so that stinks. But the line's great. 6.1 innings, 9 Ks, 2.84 ERA, which was the 2 runs and an 0.95 WHIP. And the time before that, he struck out 8 Phillies. The time before that, it was 5 Tampa Bay Devil Rays, gave up 1 run, 1 WHIP. If Trevor Rogers is out there in your league, you totally got to go at him. It looks like he's back on track. The pitches looked absolutely dominant. Fastball was money. The location was money on everything. The breaking balls look great. So go out there and snag Trevor Rogers.
Oh yeah, Trevor Rogers is stellar. Finally, he figured it out. He's going to be one of those people I'm going to be calling for a bounce back next year.
Yeah, same.
Let's see what he can do. I really hope so, because the kid had a great talent last year, and it was a shame to watch it. But kind of looked like Jack Flaherty's second year, which I've been calling all year from the jump. He just didn't have that magical second half, but maybe we'll have that magical September. Yeah. So, everybody hits different. He's probably dealing with some stuff, and it's probably all figuring it out now. But let's move on to them closers. All right. This is somebody I've been on for a couple of weeks now, and that's Mr. Peter Fairbanks of the Tampa Bay Rays. 45% owned. He's been getting the save opportunities. He has at least 1 a week for the last month, so you can't beat that. He's not killing you in ERA. He hasn't given up a single run in the last month at all. His ERA is on the last month is a 0.31. These are solid numbers. He's definitely worth an ad for me, and he's getting the job done, at least for that rare occasion in the saves where, if you're rough on it or if you're trying to get that edge up for that championship, he's the guy you want to get.
Yeah, definitely number one. Closer as far as the waiver wire goes, kind of getting a little light on closers at this point, coming out of nowhere. But Mr. Fairbanks, got a save today as we're recording. He pitched 1.1 innings, struck out 2, didn't give up a run, 0.75 WHIP. So Fairbanks is really good. Tampa usually likes to mix and match, but it looks like they're giving Fairbanks about 80% of the chances. As far as saves go, on the year his numbers are great. It's 18 innings, 28 Ks, 6 saves, 1.45 ERA and an 0.7 WHIP. So, go out there and add Pete Fairbanks, 45% owned on Yahoo. Then we got one last guy here, and that's Dylan Floro of the Miami Marlins. It looks like, they kind of took the job there from Tanner Scott, and they're giving it over to Floro, who has some closing experience in the past. Floro's numbers on the years are pretty solid. It's 43 innings, 36 Ks, 4 saves, 1 win, 3.32 ERA, and a 1.18 WHIP. He could definitely help you down the stretch here as far as saves go.
Yep. I think you pretty much covered it on that. Well,
yeah. All right, my brother. You know what, we're going to wrap up here, and we'll be with you maybe once a week, twice a week, depends on how things go here over the next couple of weeks. But, we'll do a nice little wrap up on the fantasy season show as well. Maybe we'll do a 2023 preview episode. So stay tuned with all that. Don't forget, you can always DM us on Instagram, Twitter, anywhere that you could find us if you need advice here down the stretch in the playoffs or the championship. But until next week, guys.
Peace.